The company at the center of the U.S.-China trade war is speaking to Yahoo Finance. In an exclusive interview at the company's headquarters in China, the founder and CEO of Huawei sat down with our Akiko Fujita to talk trade, Trump, and a whole lot more. And Akiko is back from China, and welcome back. Wonderful interview. Tell us some of the highlights.
Yeah, this was a pretty wide-ranging interview. We sat down with Ren Zhengfei for 90 minutes at the headquarters over in Shenzhen. And he made it very clear that this is a company that is playing the long game. They are not backing down. Yes, they have taken hits on the back of this company being added to the entity list, but he says this is short-term pain, long-term gain. And we started the conversation with him by asking him the impact the trade war has had on the company and what exactly has changed since President Trump at least publicly agreed to ease the pressure on Huawei at the G20 summit last month.
I don't think we were fully prepared for being added to the entity list, so we faced some pressure. However, after we tried to sort out our internal problems, we found that we were fully capable of shaking off our reliance on the U.S. for our core products and depending on ourselves to survive. But we also have many other non-core products that we cannot do without U.S. components. So we cut off some of those to reduce the pressure. Over 80,000 members of our technical staff are working hard to fix these holes in the development of our company. From what we're seeing today, we've made pretty good progress. There are some good results. The remarks made by Trump at the G20 summit have no substantial impact on Huawei yet.
What the Commerce Department over in the U.S. has said is that if these are components that are readily available, they will grant licenses so they can supply Huawei. Those that have national security concerns will not. What is your understanding of what constitutes national security in terms of the components that you take in?
There's not one individual component that can threaten the national security of the U.S. 5G is just a tool that helps networks operate faster. It's good for the world. 5G is not an atomic bomb. How has it become a threat?
I heard you recently say that the U.S. has helped us in a great way by giving us these difficulties. The implication being that you have been able to accelerate your efforts for increasing self-reliance. What do you see as your future with some of these partners that you've had, like Intel or Qualcomm or Micron in the U.S.?
If the U.S. government allows U.S. companies to supply us, we will continue to buy from them, even in areas we have developed our own alternatives. We adopted this approach in the past. Last year, we bought 50 million chipsets from Qualcomm, even though we have our own complete chipset portfolio. This year, we could probably make about 270 million phones, and we authorized the Consumer Business Department to buy 100 million chipsets from Qualcomm. We can live without Qualcomm, but we are still committed to working with them. We will redouble our efforts to make our products even better over time. If Intel can continue supplying Huawei to help us maintain our leading position, then we will still buy in huge volumes from them.
And as it stands right now, you're still in a bit of a wait-and-see mode because some of these American companies are applying for licenses to be able to sell to you. How long can you last without supplies coming in from the U.S.?
If U.S. companies were to stop supplying us altogether, our production would not stop for a single day in the future. Rather, we would ramp up production. But we will face some difficulties because we need to switch product versions. To do that, we need more staff. This year, we have recruited over 6,000 new employees thus far to optimize or replace existing versions. There's no lethal risk that threatens Huawei's survival at all. The more advanced a product is, the fewer risks we face.
You said, look, if the U.S. could come closer and see our company, they would realize what this company is about. Why not just invite the administration in?
We always welcome U.S. authorities to visit us. Some U.S. politicians drove by but didn't come in, and some would rather wait outside while others are meeting us. They're not willing to come in. We can do nothing about that. I suggest they change the color of their glasses so they may accept the reality. People in the U.S. industry and academia know much more about us than these politicians. They should listen to more of these people so that politicians may change their misperceptions of us.
You've been asked this question before on whether, in fact, you would be willing to take a call from President Trump. I've heard you say before that, why would he call me? He has other things to do. You don't speak the same language. But I've also heard you say recently in an interview that, yes, you are willing to take that call. Where do you stand on that right now? That I think you may actually get along with the president.
I think it could be possible. My family has said that we seem to have similar personalities because we both sometimes act a little bit high-handed. We have been communicating with the U.S. government, for example, through its Eastern District Courts in New York and its courts in Dallas, Texas. The U.S. government can communicate with us through our lawyers. Is it really necessary to ask their big president to make a phone call with me?
Huawei is part of the trade conversation, whether you like it or not. President Trump has made it a part of that. And since G20, there has been a back and forth with the report suggesting that the Chinese government is really pushing the U.S. to reduce the pressure, back off on your company as part of a concession from the U.S. side. If the Chinese government asked you to be involved in these discussions, would you be willing to take part?
First, the U.S. has filed criminal charges against us instead of attempting to negotiate. As Trump tweeted constantly, he changed his judgment on the situation and wanted to negotiate with us. He tweeted things out by himself during the G20. The United States is a country ruled by law. How do legal issues allow negotiations? The law issues should be resolved in courts, right? The trade between China and the U.S. has nothing to do with us. We barely sell anything in the United States. Trump is nothing on us, and he hopes to use Huawei as a bargaining chip. But China doesn't seem to buy it, right? We won't go to the Chinese government to pull us into the negotiations. I hope the relevant lawsuits will reach their conclusions quickly. Second, if we got involved, the Chinese government would have to make concessions for us. Why should China make concessions for Huawei? Huawei didn't commit any crimes, so why should they have to save us? In addition, negotiations won't help. The U.S. House of Representatives has passed a proposal that says Huawei may not be removed from the entity list for at least 5 years. Should we just wait 5 years? Impossible.
One of the biggest clouds hanging over Huawei's business right now is how some of their smartphones will operate without being able to run the Android operating system. And guys, Ren Zhengfei, as well as the head of the consumer business, said that Google has actually applied for a waiver already. They are moving forward with the intention, the expectation of being able to use the Android OS in all their upcoming launches. And